washed up.
The connection that I have with Ben is that he's my cousin. Growing up, we shared a special bond that made him feel like an older brother rather than a distant relative. Back when I was in elementary school, we were incredibly close. He would always be there during the holidays and at every family gathering. And those moments spent together were some of the most happiest moments I've had in my childhood. Ben had this natural way of making people feel comfortable and heard. And for me, he was my safe harbor.
Ben was the person I turned to. He had a knack for giving the best advice, and he always seemed to know what just to say to make things better. Whether it was about school, friends, or just life in general, I knew I could trust him to listen and help me think and help me see things more clearly. He became my role model, someone I admired deeply for his wisdom, his kindness, and steady presence.
What saddens me the most is knowing that I watched Ben's life change, but from a distance. I wasn't there for him when he needed someone the most, and that regret weighs heavily on me. I knew his true self, the Ben who was full of life, wisdom, and kindness. So it broke my heart to see him spiral into drug use as he struggled with depression. I could see the pain he was going through, but I never felt like I was in the right position to ask what was wrong. I kept convincing myself that someone else would step in, or that he'd get better on his own. But deep down, I wish I reached out to him sooner. According to his close family members, I learned just how terrible Ben's life was while living on the streets. It wasn't just difficult, it was a constant battle for survival, someone no one should ever have to endure. The streets were unforgiving, and he faced cruelty at every turn. People would treat him horribly, hurling dirty names at him and stripping away his dignity. But what hurt me the most was hearing about the abuse he endured. It wasn't just from strangers on the streets. Even from those who were supposed to protect him, like the police, caused him harm. I mean, the very people entrusted to serve and protect were instead relocating him from place to place, kicking him out of the few areas he can call his own. This wasn't a solution. It was just another way to dehumanize him, to strip him of any remaining sense of stability. Moving him around didn't appear to address the deeper issues he was facing. It only amplified his suffering. He was arrested at times, only to be released back into the same hopeless situation. Each time, it seemed to push him further into despair, leaving him worse than before. Prison didn't help him. It likely took an even greater toll on his already fragile mental state. The cycle he was trapped in was heartbreaking to witness, even from a distance. He wasn't just struggling with homelessness. He was actively being failed by the system and society as a whole. It's devastating to think about how much he suffered, especially knowing the person he once was. I think the true way to address the issue of homelessness is through compassion, support, and action, not through abuse, arrest, or displacement. People experiencing homelessness need solutions that address the root causes of their struggles, not temporary fixes that only seek to worsen their condition. One of the most effective steps is to provide support in the form of resources and services that help individuals rebuild their lives. This includes opening more homeless shelters that offer not just a place to sleep, but also access to food, hygiene facilities, and counseling. These shelters should be a safe, welcoming environment where people can begin to stabilize their lives and find hope for the future. Additionally,
Providing essential supplies like clothing, blankets, and hygiene kits can make an immediate difference in the quality of life. Access to healthcare, both physical and mental, is also crucial, as many people experiencing homelessness struggle with untreated illnesses or conditions that keep them trapped in a cycle of instability.
It is also equally important to invest in long-term solutions, such as affordable housing programs, job training, and access to employment opportunities. These programs empower people to regain independence and escape the cycle of homelessness for good. In contrast, the approach of abusing, arresting, or simply relocating homeless individuals is not only ineffective, but also dehumanizing. These actions strip people of their dignity and push them down further into despair, making it even harder for them to recover. Arresting someone just for being homeless does not do anything to address the underlying issues. It simply adds trauma and leaves them in an even worse position when they're released. Similarly, forcing them to move from one area to another only shifts the problem rather than solving it. Addressing homelessness requires empathy and understanding. It's about treating people as human beings and recognizing their potential to overcome their struggles when given the right tools and support. Only by taking these compassionate and constructive steps can we truly begin to resolve this crisis. And in the end, Ben just gave out. His body was found in an alleyway, wrapped in a thin blanket that provided no real protection from the freezing temperatures. The autopsy revealed that he had been severely malnourished, and he was also suffering from various untreated illnesses. His death wasn't just a result of homelessness. It was a result of a system that continuously failed him. Nothing could have prepared me for Ben's death, because it wasn't just the loss of someone we loved. It was the realization of how preventable his death could have been. If only there was enough shelters to house him, enough programs to address his addiction, and enough mental health services to help him heal. If only someone had reached out with real, lasting support, instead of pushing him away. Maybe he'd still be here. Ben's story isn't the only one. It's the story of thousands of people who are left to fend for themselves in a society that too often looks the other way. His death is a painful reminder that we need to do better. Not just for those we know, but for everyone who finds themselves in the same position. Nobody deserves to be forgotten like Ben was, and no one deserves to die because they were denied the help they needed.
I know you never meant to put him down. And even if you did, he sure deserved it.
That's good. You know, yep, I agree with you. Yep, that was great.
Well, sure it would be sad, but not really different. And even though you barely know each other, it still hurts watching him fade away. Watching him fade away. Watching him fade